this coffee's great.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, is that cinnamon? It's chicory. Chicory.
Teal'c?
Isn't that hot?
Extremely.
Stargate SG-1, a retro review. Let's dive into that. So, good morning, everyone. We're going to take a look at Stargate SG-1, a series that ran for 10 solid seasons, a good 214 episodes. So, we're going to cover every single one this morning in detail, in real time.
What?
We're going to look at, so how many days would that take?
That'd take way too long.
I mean, if it's like 45 minutes an episode without commercial interruptions or anything like
yeah,
that.
because
If you were to like binge it solidly from now,
10 seasons.
I don't know. I should do the calculations. But how
How many episodes per season? How many episodes in total?
Well, 214. So 214
hours.
No. It's only 45 minutes or so.
Yeah, so that would be
Easily 150 hours.
Yeah. So
I couldn't stay up that late.
No.
So we're going to take a look at just kind of an overview of the series. This is going to be a fun one this morning. If we have time, if it ends up being a good thing, we might take a look at a seasons by season, or maybe the fan favorite episodes of some of them. And this series happened to be one of my favorites. It was watching these on a regular basis. You're kind of on the edge of your seats a little bit, thinking, "Hey, are they going to kill this series?" We watched it as it was coming out, the real time, from the very beginning. I didn't see the first couple of seasons or episodes. We did see the movie when it came out, and then when they were talking about this series, originally I was thinking, I don't think I'm gonna get into that a whole lot. I didn't put a whole lot of time into it, but after it started taking off, we were checking it out. We were watching the episodes as they came out. It ended up being a good one. There are some things here in the end we're going to be talking about from a Christian perspective. Some of the topics that came on that were a little hot that we need to dive into a little bit. And so before we do that, though, I'd like to look at a poll that we took. This is from you guys, some of the viewers that come back with the poll. Let's go ahead and bring that up there. And we have, who was on top? Well,
who was your favorite character?
Who is your favorite character of the series? Now, somebody said, well, what about Jonas? What about Vala? What about all these other characters that were in the series that really did have an impact on it? The problem with YouTube is you can only put up 4 at the most.
You only have 4 options.
I really wanted to put up that one guy that says, "Incoming wormhole." That's like the one line he has. He's behind the bench, right? I wanted to put him up there, but we didn't. We only had 4, and I'm grateful that we did have 4 at least, because we really couldn't round up the team if they just had 3. I don't think we would have done the poll at all if it had that. Because could they, if you could lose any one of these characters in the series, which one would it be? What would you say?
Out of these 4?
Yeah, at least 4.
Probably Carter, but the problem is you'd end up losing some of the interplay between the 2 characters. I'd say personally, for me, watching this again, I didn't watch it until reruns because I'm not that old.
Oh, quiet.
Oh, fine. But no, when we eventually did watch it, I did enjoy sitting down with the family, and we binge watched quite a few episodes.
So that's the advantage of binge watching, I guess. You can go through. You don't have to wait for next week. I can just watch them all. Yeah. So my opinion, I like O'Neill the most.
I know this has divided my household a bit.
Divided your household?
Because Al really likes Teal'c more. And I'd say it's a toss-up. In my opinion, it's a toss-up between the two characters.
I think Amanda didn't get enough love.
Man, she got smoked.
No, you know what? I really liked her.
Between the characters, she got smoked, man. She was left all the way
behind. I thought she was an attractive member of the team.
I thought
she was the best looking.
Well, she had. I thought she was a powerful character. All of them are powerful.
She was.
Characters.
What I found attractive about her too is her brilliance, and there was a lot of great interplay between her and O'Neill with the techno babbles she would go on, which I would like. Yeah, tell me more, and he's like, stop.
I don't.
Too much. So, yeah, we those are pretty cool. Would you? So you don't? I don't think you could take any character out of this and really, because one of the good things about this was the team, the chemistry between them all. Of all the science fiction shows that were out there, I think that this one probably had the best chemistry of the team. I could look back at the original Star Trek, and you got Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. And maybe Scotty's in there, but I mean, and Luhur, and they had the regular team. But those top three, there was a real chemistry between them. But with this, you really did. If you took any of them out, I don't think it would work. And they did that with Daniel. Took him out for a season.
Yeah, it did not work so well.
Yeah, and they brought in Jonas Quinn. Right, for a while, and he was a good character. I liked him. In fact, I identified with him quite a bit. He was a noble, good character. He really tried, but it wasn't really the same. And they brought Daniel back. Eventually the whole Ascension thing. By the way, we're doing spoilers, so if you haven't watched the series and you really want to,
yeah, probably should have mentioned that whole thing before that.
Yeah,
don't worry, he's not dead yet.
He dies in the end, Buford. Okay, so.
Spoilers are on yellow.
Yeah, it's all.
The dog dies.
The dog dies.
The dog dies.
There's no dog dies. No dogs were killed in the making of this movie or this series. So yeah, I as far as the poll goes, you can't beat this. Okay, so go back here. What would you say as far as your favorite series, or not your favorite series, your favorite episode?
Favorite episode would be the episode where they get stuck in time and they keep looping. That would be the one, because they get there's a lot of advantage with the series because the writers, since they were basically always scared they're going to get canceled, they were willing to explore multiple concepts, because they get towards the end, they're like, screw it, we'll just throw this in there. If they cancel us over it, who cares?
Was that really the impetus for doing this?
A lot of it was. A lot of it was because they never knew coming up to the season finale if they'd be coming back for the next season.
Well, from what I understand, they did know that the first two seasons were pretty much locked in. There was a deal with Showtime and some of the other producers, some of the other studios that were involved in putting this together, that they had that locked in. And I put into the comments, there's a reference for another YouTube video, did a really good job of behind the scenes. And if you want to geek out a whole lot, you can check that out. Now, that actually did make a difference in the production of the series, because if the cast and crew knows that there's going to be some stability there, that they know they could put more effort into it, they could put more energy to say, hey, okay, we're going to make this happen, because I'm not too afraid of my next paycheck. But this one episode that you're talking about, I think it was my favorite too. You wouldn't have been able to do an episode like this until you have it locked down, everybody's familiar with the characters, and you can do like a little bit of a spoof thing with it. This wasn't a spoof episode. This is one of those timey-wimey, loopy things. There's one that happened in Star Trek that was my favorite too, but that was more serious. There's a lot more levity in this. At one point in this loop and cycle, again, spoiler, if you haven't seen this one, don't watch us. But in this one that's the looping, at one point, Dr. Daniel says, because Teal'c and O'Neill are locked in this cycle, continue, repeat, this whole groundhog thing that's going on. They got to figure out how to get out of it. And so they're increasing their knowledge at each one, and they're just getting so tired. They don't even know how many loops they've made. And Daniel asked him, said, well, how many times have you guys done this? I said, I don't know. He says, well, there is an advantage. You guys can do whatever you want. There's no consequences. And they just go off the rails. And it is
whatever you want to do, just do it.
It is.
O'Neill, what the hell are you doing? In the middle of my backswing?
Just one after another.
Sorry, sir. I didn't realize you were there.
You have said that on many occasions.
I...
Perhaps next time I will not be so forgiving.
To stop this day from happening again.
You realize this is a little difficult for me to accept.
Hey, if it was just me, I'd agree. But what about Teal'c? Come on, is this the face of a crazy man? Bad example.
Telling you, Teal'c, if we don't find a way out of this soon, I'm gonna lose it. Lose it. It means go crazy. Nuts. Insane. Bonzo. No longer in possession of one's faculties. 3 fries short of a happy meal. Wacko!
So whether you're a techno geek that really gets into the techno babble that Amanda Tapping uses in her, I'm sorry, I used the actress's name instead of the actual character. But if you're into that, or if you're more like a Colonel O'Neill, just looking at her blankly and saying, "What?" You can just run with the show. Now, I want to know why. The Teal got a lot of good votes on this one. And so, you guys throw in your comments or whatever. If you voted for him, why? Now, I have my own reasons why I would have voted for him. I think he's good. I could have voted for any one of these characters. I'm not going to tell you who I voted for, if I voted at all. But there was this good, like we said, this good chemistry between them, and everything is happening. And some of the episodes, they delved into some really good topics. Some of them were rehashed sci-fi stuff that put a slightly different spin on it, but still good, for what all we like. So this is all the fun stuff. They also, what was cool about this too is it seemed that the writers respected their audience, where now you don't have that as much. Not at all. You seem like you preach that a lot with the some of the TV series or even movies that come out, especially concerning woke topics. They try to say this is you have the old hashed and redone morality preaching, bullies coming at you, equality, diversity, inclusion, all that kind of stuff. It's just boom, 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 boom. And it's like, come on, guys. There's so much more to talk about here. There's so much more to explore. And that's what they seem to have done in this one. What were some of your favorite memories or some of your favorite thoughts about watching the series?
They did a great job. Definitely whenever it came to even making fun of themselves. I thought that there was, at least at one point, they did like just an episode on a TV series that was being released that was in their universe. That was the series.
Yeah.
And they were releasing it. And they get ready, they release it, they've got everything together, and it flops. Their own show flops in their show.
They weren't afraid to make fun of themselves either. I mean, they're serious. This was not a comedy, but there was plenty of comic relief in there. And with this one, they were making fun of themselves. Sometimes some other shows, I'm not going to say which ones, whatever, but it has a star in it. They sometimes get too wrapped up in themselves, take themselves too seriously, where this is a little bit easier to say, just roll with the punches a little bit and make fun of yourself.
So yeah, those are the sort of things that they were able to explore. They always did great season finales.
Oh yeah, yeah,
always on the edge of your seat.
yeah. And
Again, that goes back to if we don't make it too good and people don't say we have to have it, we might not have a job.
Well, the thing that could backfire with that, if you have a great season finale and there is no next season, you're just kind of like, what? I want to see what's going to happen.
Well, that's what they wanted the audience to be like, get us back in so we can finish.
Well, they did have, and then they spun off the 2 movies, and then there was these 2, at least, 2 series after this?
There's Atlantis and then
Universe,
which Universe just...
Well, yeah.
That's its own graveyard.
Yeah. Well, there might be some people that really like that.
It's a graveyard.
So there's this is the fun part of it. As you can see, I think both of us really enjoyed the series. It was one of our favorites, but there were some topics on here that they delved into that probably should take a closer look with from a Christian perspective. One of the problems with thirsting for entertainment, just for entertainment's sake, and just wanted to, I just want to relax. I just want to get into this. I don't care what they talk about and stuff, is you still need to keep your guard up on some issues. And when I say guard up, is what you, as a Christian, probably there's some things you shouldn't use as entertainment. And I'm not going to get into the do's and don'ts, but there's some things that we'll look at here that got a little sticky man, I'm not sure. And I started feeling uncomfortable with some things. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I don't know. But one of the first that they did is that they had these different enemies that they ranked up. Now, this was based on the original movie that came out. And one of the cool things that they had in the movie was they had to learn the language. And this is one of the first really serious sci-fi movies that I saw, going to another planet. So you've got the whole question of environment. Do you have enough oxygen, gravity? Is there too much radiation? All sorts of things that can kill us out in space on another planet. That's fine. Okay, so this worked out. It was a planet just like ours. It's a desert situation, though, not the nicest place to live. They land there, Abydos. They go in. They get it all scoped out, and they find other humans that are there. And they speak English with a British accent. No, that's not the case. These people actually spoke another language, and it took a while to understand the language. And this is the movie. This isn't the series, but it took a while to understand the language. And that was not just window dressing. That was part of the plot, because as they unraveled this, and there's nuance to the language. This is Dr. Jackson. He played a big role in this. As he unravels the language, he understands, there's other things that are going on here. It's a bit of a mystery that as they understand these people and what words they're using, the plot develops. Sort of like, remember, before your time and before my time, believe it or not, the Twilight Zone, where black and white. Okay, the Twilight Zone. They had these aliens that were helping humanity that came to the Earth, and they're working this out. Right. And they had this book they found from the alien. Actually left this book, and we translated the book and translated the title to serve man. And then, they're here to help us. They're serving. Let's translate the rest of the book. And at the end, as they're being taken off to this other planet, he opened it up. Said, no, it's a cookbook. It's a cookbook. Remember Madagascar?
Yes.
Okay, so that became a meme. It was kind of like that with the movie, but you don't see that in the series as much. Of course, that would take time. You have to imagine if you went to every planet, there was a Stargate, and the first thing you need to do is understand the language. How long would that actually take?
Yeah, they cut that out.
They cut that out. Series. They didn't even have
Everyone
the universal translator. Everybody spoke English. They didn't have, at least in Star Trek, you had a universal translator. You could just put it on there, right? And then they do that for a couple episodes, and there's like the lip syncing thing. And then finally they said, okay, we're just going to hand wave, and everybody just speaking directly to each other. We're just calling it a universal translator off to the side, but it doesn't really happen. But,
it costs way too much to do lip syncing.
Well, yeah, that and it does detract from the story. It makes it boring, because every place you go, it has to have that. But realistically speaking, that would be an issue. So here are now we're with each episode where they jump from planet to planet, and they have they deal with a lot of these different things. One of the problems that they deal with is the enemy. So they start with, from the original movie, they start with the Goa'uld, right?
Yeah, well, they really changed the whole concept from the movie to the series with that character. Because in the series, it was more like, okay, this is an alien being who took on a human form, and then you got like a little flash of the character. The movie.
So it's like humanoid, maybe reptilian or something.
Yeah, reptilian or something like that. But then in the series, they're actually these parasite snake things.
But I think they explained that. I think they explained that later by saying that the first ones who had the snake in them were these reptilian guys.
Yeah, they tried to explain it that way. Not really. I saw that.
Yeah, I don't really think it's really came off that way.
Cover for that, but again, things like that have to change whenever you go from, oh, this is a one-off movie to now we're going to make it a long series.
Well, you know what? I think there's a lot of forgiveness that fans will give for watching that and say, it's good, it's close enough. But that was one change. So you have the villains being the Goa'uld, and they're set up as these system lords that go over and have to conquer. And they basically were so advanced, far beyond our comprehension of our technology and everything. We'll never be able to reach that on our own. Maybe 1,000 years we'll catch up with them or so. And they had these minions that were working for them, the Jaffa. And the Jaffa would be, so that those technology and a great following, good luck. Humans would never be able to do that. But after a while, it almost became, after a number of series and episodes, it almost became laughable about how easy they were to destroy some of their larger ships and everything. I think it was, they brought them down to a level enough. And then once they defeated them, and they had Anubis come in. Anubis was like, he's going to take over everybody, right?
Yep.
And he's going to be
the next one.
And at the same time, you had Thor, and he had, which was another species, right? The typical big-eyed alien. I thought Thor was pretty cool.
So they did, with each sort of alien race, they sort of had a different mythology for. So you had You had the Goa'uld, which were all based off of Egyptian mythology, and then you had the Thor's group, which was all based off Norse mythology.
Yeah,
and I thought they did a decent job with that interplay. I thought they did a good job with human development through this. I thought there was a great example of human development where
you mean like character development, or
no, human development as far as technological development goes.
Oh, yeah. So it wasn't like, and we'll cover this in some of the other series when we get to them. You have some episodic sci-fi stories. It's when they come across new technology, instead of it having a great impact on them, and the next episode is like, hey, we got this new device that gives us ability to fertilize an entire planet, and they come to a planet and they're not able to do this. Like, what happened to that gadget that you guys had in the last episode? Why can't you use that?
Well, not only that, also, if you had something like that, well, that would naturally impact the society that we have around us.
Right.
It would impact the world, and that's something that they did explore in this, and you slowly see the development of humanity from basically just entering into this new universe to being able to hold its own from start to finish. And that progression, I think, is critical to a series like this, because it doesn't end up just being episodic. Oh, what they do this week, well, it just undoes everything. Who cares?
No, there was definitely an arc between them, and there was an arc between the different series. So it was almost a continuous story, which I think really helped with the writing and just the engagement that the fans have with the storyline. So you had them, you had Thor, and the idea with these different different alien groups is that they did have an impact on society. That's why you do see the mythology on each one of them. But then it kind of almost got a little bit gimmicky with the saying, well, we have no real history of ourselves. It's just all the stuff that impacted us from aliens. They're the ones that seeded us. So you had the replicators that were an enemy. And once you defang,
they're cool.
Yeah, the replicators were cool. Once you defang the enemy, then it's like, okay, now what do? We have to like one up to the next group to be able to say, now that we defeated those guys, we have to have a more powerful enemy than previous. And that would make sense because you're stepping up. You're like, okay, the next boss on the next level that we need to be able to
Got to keep cranking it up. And I think that was a huge disadvantage with the series.
Why? Because
eventually you run out of vertical room.
Well, yeah. I mean, they went 10 seasons. So it's a long time. 10 years. That's a long time. I was surprised that they were able to keep up with what they did. But they eventually get to the Ori. So before we get to the Ori, I want to take a look at one other thing first. And they not only did Egyptian, but they brought in, with the Goa'uld, they had mythology from different parts of the world. One of them in particular was Goa'uld. Goa'uld came in several times during the series. He ended up being a boss that they had to deal with. And he was kind of almost like a goofy crime lord is what I put on. You know,
that seems to be an apt description.
He almost likable. You know, he's the bad guy that you kind of like. The problem with it is now we're starting to dip it a little bit more into biblical or Christian, and this would also be Jewish history, with Baal being an actual god that the Israelites had a hard time with. They had a hard time with him, not because he was so much an enemy, because they accepted him. They brought him in as he was a Canaanite god. And in the Canaanite pantheon, he was like the god of fertility, and he would give you more stuff, better crops, better livestock if you sacrificed to him. And with the sacrifice also came temple prostitution. The sacrifice would be human sacrifice, child sacrifice. And just like Molech, which is, you may be familiar with Molech, putting the child in Molech's hands, the statue, and letting the child fall into the fire. Really gruesome, terrible. And God said, don't do this. Wipe that out. Have nothing to do with that. They left it up there. And what was up on the high places ended up being a part of their culture. They embraced it as part of their culture. So to kind of make him a goofy character, sort of like taking Satan and making him a caricature with red jumpsuit, a pointy tail, and a pitchfork, and to just give he's comic relief, where in actuality, no, he's not. And there's a point where you can be take a little jab at him, make fun of him, because I actually like making fun of him. But at the same time, you realize that that this was a serious thing back then. Okay, no big deal. We can kind of look over that a little bit, give Baal a little bit of airtime, I guess. But then we got to the Ori.
Oof, yes, that was
it. What was the deal with the Ori? Why are you having that expression?
Well, you see, they went after a couple of different mythologies. Fine, definitely painting them as bad guys. The Ori were the bad guys, so it was just the gradual step up. I don't think, personally, I would have rather have seen more human development, how humanity would have taken over our current galaxy, because these were from outside of the galaxy. It was from farther away, this enemy coming in. I would have rather have seen them do that development, and I would have been perfectly fine with that. But then they went to the Ori, and where they focused on mythology before, they went after Christianity.
Well, okay, so this was what you would maybe consider medieval mythology.
Medieval mythology, yeah, but it was vaguely painted. It was very obvious what it actually
Yeah,
was.
so it really was a jab at Christianity, and this was a caricature of medieval Christianity was not true. So they did have who was it? Merlin. They did Merlin was in there. Okay, so they mixed in with Merlin. But then when they start going on that, they really painted Christians as saying, it really was. It was medieval Christianity. The way that the garb was, the way that it was portrayed, to say that they were just a bunch of fools following a lie, that they were going to receive some kind of glory from these guys, some kind of power from these guys, and these guys aren't going to share the power. They just want your worship. And the other thing that was interesting about that too is this is the first time everything's technological. Even when we're talking about the Goa'uld, when we're talking about the Replicators, when we're talking about Thor, every kind of mythology that's brought in here is technological. This is the first one that they brought in that there was a real spiritual aspect to that, and that somehow worshiping these guys gave them power, and that this power then they would use that to turn around and continue to extract the power, because they were ascended beings at one time, right?
Yeah, they're like,
and that had to go with it. So there's Buddhism there, that you had the ascension, that was Buddhism is good and everything like that, according to the story. I'm not saying that is, but according to the story, that that was a part of what they were doing. It's not true Buddhism, but aspects of it. So worshiping them, these Ori, was stupid. I agree, it was stupid. But then painted it all as like, oh, this like medieval Christianity. And I really had a hard time with it. It was also the decline of the series, that things were wrapping up, that they pretty much exhausted what they could. And they were launching, at that time, they had already launched Atlantis, right?
They'd already launched Atlantis. It was already going strong.
So Stargate, it was a spin-off, Stargate Atlantis.
Which we might end up doing that one.
I think it would be good if we did do that, because that was also a good series.
I thought it was a pretty good series.
Yeah.
Bill didn't like it too much, but I thought it was pretty good.
So they did this, and it really gave me a very uncomfortable feeling watching this, because that there's really no respect for Christianity, because if there was respect for Christianity, there would be Christian theology would have been in. You may have had a Christian character in here who would have been respected, maybe a scientist. Ooh, what at that? A scientist who is a Christian. That's one reason why I write what I do as an author, is because I want to be able to show Christians as being okay, good guys in a regular science fiction story without them being the villains, because they're often painted as being a villain, like in this series. So to wrap it up, we have these. You want to kind of keep your eyes open for that type of thing, and say, keep your guard up and say, no, you know what? That's not, I don't go for that. We don't want to paint pictures. You can use this though as a springboard for conversation, because you could point at that and say, you know what? That's a lot like an Antichrist type of thing. These guys coming in, exacting worship. It is almost like a demonic type of thing, where you want the enemy saying, hey, worship me, I'll give you what you want. He even came to Jesus and said that. So there is an opportunity to use this as a discussion for people, not just throw it away and say, I'm not going to watch it all, but you could use this as a point of drawing somebody closer to Christ. Do you have any last words as we wrap this up?
Sure. I think I was disappointed that they went after the Christians, but I think that there would have been, I think they could have done Greek mythology. I think there were a lot of additional older mythologies they could have used in a technological way to have fun with. And I think they skipped all of that in order to go after Christianity, because that was much cooler at that point. I was looking at some of the cultural things that were going on. It seemed that was the cool aspect at that time period. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to jump on that bandwagon, and this is the new cool thing. And unfortunately, the entire series, well, kind of how you look at it, kind of fell apart at that point, because you could definitely tell that the audience wasn't as engaged after that point. I don't know if it was just exhaustion with, oh, here's another enemy that we've got to deal with, but it did go downhill.
That could be. And there might be other things behind the scenes too, with what was happening with Atlantis, maybe some of the fatigue that the cast had. I don't know. There's other things.
Atlantis did go for quite a while after this one.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of it.
So I'm going to be doing a dive back into tomorrow morning, talking about the meme, Yahweh being the breath of God. We talked about that on Friday. We're going to get a little deeper and say, where did this come from? When these memes come across like this, it's be good to say, what is it mean? Sorry, don't mean to be using somebody else's catchphrase.
Sorry, John.
Sorry, John. So,
another John.
What does that mean? What's behind the scenes of that? Where did that come from? How do you respond to it? Things like that. So we're going to look at that a little bit deeper, and then Wednesday we're going to leap around a little bit. We're going to do some large leaps, but no, there'll be small leaps, very small, like quantum leaps.
Quantum, just a little quantum leap.
Somebody says, we're going to take a quantum leap. What a small. We're going to take a little step. So we're going to delve into Quantum Leap. We're going to take a look at that series as well. Not as long running as this one. This is probably one of the longest running. Is there another longer running sci-fi series than Stargate Atlantis?
Stargate? Not Stargate.
I'm Stargate Atlantis.
SG1. That coming off of.
No.
Wait, hold on.
Is there a longer running series than that?
It would have to be. The only other one I could really think of would be Star Trek. Wow.
Well, I'm talking. Okay, so
just by itself.
It's okay. I'm talking about just this series itself.
The Next Generation.
I
for
think they went that
8
long.
years. I think 8 seasons.
Yeah. No. There's another one ran way longer. Starting in 63. I think I know which one you're talking about. Started in 63. Who is it? Who
would this be?
Who?
Great question.
Doctor Who. Okay.
Which we got. If I'm not mistaken, is a sonic screwdriver.
Yeah, that's a sonic screwdriver.
Which we will have to do a review.
Well, we should do Doctor Who as well. Some of these are just overviews, and we just might get into some seasons, specific seasons. Maybe
just nerdy talk. Episodes. That's what this is. Nerdy talk.
Yeah. I need to get to work. So we need to now. So that's tomorrow morning is the meme. After that, we got Quantum Leap, and then we have more material after this. So much material to cover. Any last words?
Nope. I think that wraps it up nicely.
Except, wasn't O'Neill in a different series before this? I thought he looked a little familiar. Where was he before this?
You're talking about MacGyver, aren't you?
I'm talking MacGyver.
MacGyvering it up.
We'll leave you with this.
You spent 7 years on MacGyver and you can't figure this one out? We got belt buckles and shoelaces and a piece of gum. Build a nuclear reactor, for crying out loud. You used to be MacGyver, McGadget, McGimmick. Now you're Mr. McUseless. Dear God. Stuck on a glacier with MacGyver!